Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Another installment.
Another something.
Right? You might already notice the difference. If you are actually on an app and not just listening to us on the audio waves.
Right.
There's a camera.
Whoa.
Okay. A little different. But still the
iPhone.
same show.
15 Pro. No, 12 Pro. Oops.
You ain't got it like that.
Nah,
That's your phone. Don't lie to people like that.
I was dreamcasting just now.
Yeah.
Love the brother dream, man.
And I will. But new setup. Let us know what y'all think.
Mm-hmm.
Same podcast.
Same podcast.
And what is that podcast?
This is the Lessons and Blessings podcast, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You know we gotta have our applause.
Ain't no way.
It's funny part because we can't hear it. So when I clicked it, I'm just like, I'm expecting to hear it.
I sure hope that there was applause there.
If there was not applause,
That's what
then
we're thinking.
Yeah, there's no applause, then y'all need to clap.
Yeah.
I don't care where you are at work, start clapping. What are you clapping about?
Clap it up.
It's the LB_pod. You should check us out on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram at LB_pod.
We will start getting more content out. But right now, this is a test episode. This is an actual episode.
Yeah, actual episode.
But
trying out something new.
Yo, trying something new with the video and all those different angles and all that jazz and so.
Yeah, well, so in case you're joining us for the first time, it's AJ.
Yo.
And my boy Shell.
Yep.
And we like to start most of these episodes just kind of catching up with where we've been since last one. I know that it's been 2 weeks. We're trying to come out with a new one every couple weeks. And since our last episode, we had Encounter Weekend, which is if you grew up in church and know like a D Now kind of weekend, getting host homes with students and all that kind of stuff. Powerful.
Really
powerful.
True.
Now you were in a host home.
Yes.
I am old and married. Now you're older than me. Right.
That's crazy.
For the record, let's put that down. But I have a wife I got to take care of. So
Must be nice.
I wasn't staying in a home this weekend. So I can only imagine what it was like for you.
Man, it was nuts. We were with the 10th and 11th grade high school boys. And let me tell you, they were the funniest. They were the funniest group of high schools I've ever met in my life because they are all friends. Yeah. And so from the moment we got there, they were just roasting each other just from the jump, which I love. Because I think it's just as men, our love language is just to roast. If I'm not roasting you, can I really say that I'm your friend?
There's some truth to that.
I'm not going to cross a line. I'm not going to go and embarrass you, but I'm going to roast you.
Right. Like the challenge of being a young adult leader for high schoolers, especially like 10th, 11th, senior, is that unfortunately they are funny too.
Yeah. So
you're trying to keep it together. You're trying to be serious.
Fighting for my life.
And you're trying not to show them that it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they come up with the most creative insults.
For real.
And I think the best insults, and we're going to talk about this. I'm just kidding. We're not about to get into this. But is the kind of thing that like doesn't quite make sense. Yeah. Right? Like it can't be like if I told you, man, you built like that chair. Right? It's like, okay. But when you add a little bit more specifics to it. That's like you funny. Dance like a curtain in the wind, and you're like, "What does that even mean?"
So you built like a bent spoon. You're like,
and there it is, and you know what it's like, and you know the vibe, and it hurts, and it's real, and we don't talk about it. That bent spoon came from a dark place, man. Someone call you that before?
No, that's the first thing that popped up. I was looking around your house. I was like, man, I don't see any spoons, but I see the kitchen. We ain't got any bent spoons here that I know. Yeah, man. The funniest roast. One of the funniest roasts I've heard. Somebody's like, you look like you lick bed frames. I don't know why that's funny to me, but that's the bed frames. You look like you lick bed frames. That's.
They told that to you or someone else?
No, I was in the vicinity when I heard it, and
did it make sense to you though when you saw the guy? You're
absolutely.
Like, yeah,
I'm like that checks out, and that's the thing about roasting, bro. Like you gotta say something unbelievable.
Yeah.
Be like,
yeah.
That's plausible. That could be true.
And when you do, I mean, there's a line as a leader that you got to make sure you don't cross, but you do get some street cred with them if you can hit them back.
Oh, for sure.
I was a leader on a senior bus for a camp that we took one year. And I used to get to the front of the bus and I would hit them with like that airplane, like, hey, it's this many degrees outside and the kind of weather. I'd give them a forecast and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd roast one of them. And they used to like come up and be like, dude, roast me next. And then we had some guest roasts coming up. And if this individual ever listens to this episode, he knows exactly who he is. And I'm not going to say your name. But there was a guest roast that come up about somebody else. And he said, I just want to know, tell me why so-and-so is built like a beanbag. And as a leader in that moment, you have the choice Now it's seniors only. Okay, seniors only. Everybody already knew the vibe. It was like day 3, all that kind of stuff. But you can laugh, but you got to watch how hard you laugh. You know what I'm saying? That was good. He still talks about it. He remembers that roast, bro. That was years ago.
It's a guest roast, or something you roast, and they had to guess who it was.
No. Like a guest, like a celebrity. Would come up like a celebrity shot in a game. Like somebody else came up because I was the roast master.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
So I'm hosting the whole thing, and I'd have roast for people. But then that guy came up, and I would open the floor sometimes. So especially like when you're waiting for doors to open for something, you're all just stuck on the bus. You're trying to find ways to pass time. But I let him come up, and they'd hit me with a good one or whatever. I mean, they have to tell me what they're gonna say first. I'm not about to give you a mic.
Security check it.
And you're like, so we had Encounter Weekend, which is dope. I gotta say, even from just the adult role of being there and seeing how many students were there, but also just hearing the stories of like real life change that was going on in those host homes, which is always a beautiful thing. We're in March now, which means Black History Month is over.
That's long.
Have you noticed the change in how people have treated you over the past 24 hours?
No, I have not.
No, you haven't?
At least I might be in denial.
If you would have come over today and been like, yeah, I'll be honest, everybody treated me differently today, I would have lost it. Oh, man. Yeah, we'll talk about Black History Month, though, another day. That's funny. Yeah, and when it comes up next year, we'll have a special couple episodes. If we got cameras back then, we'll dress up for it. It'll be great. Boy. Nah, I just mess. Well, anyway. Past couple weeks have been fun. Yeah. They've been exhausting. I think we're also trying to catch up on sleep from last weekend.
I'm in debt.
Yeah, I'm in debt. Faux show. But we're going to get into a series that we're going to start here.
Yes, sir.
And we're calling it the Dear Blank series. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about laziness. But you can expect throughout this series, and it might be something we do for a couple episodes, take a break from, come back, that kind of thing. But, dear laziness, dear anxiety, dear depression, dear future boyfriend, dear, spouse, all that kind of stuff. And so if there's a topic that you want to hear about specifically, let us know. We've got comments, and shout out to the people. I got about 3 or 2 texts this week, and somebody that I saw on our Tuesday night young adult service that were just talking about how they were connecting with an episode that we had dropped. And that means the world to us. I mean, just to know that what we're doing matters to people. And I think that when we start something like this, the goal is always to see if we can build it into something that's great, Right. But at the same time, just the text that I get that's like, I just watched this episode. Somebody was talking to me about the Friends episode we dropped. Someone was talking about the generational curses one that we dropped. Someone was talking about the marriage one that we dropped. And so everybody like really connecting with a different episode. Yeah. Because I mean, this is the first time we've committed to doing something like this for a whole year.
For facts.
Right? And I know we even haven't talked about it like regularly, but I know that there are some weeks that we're like, man, I really don't want to do this today. I got other things I could be doing. But y'all reaching out and sending those things and supporting us, I mean, it really does help us keep going.
Not for real.
And we love hearing from you guys. And so the other thing is, one of those texts came because somebody posted it on their story about they were messing with it. I don't got Instagram, so I didn't even see it. Right. But then people were reaching out, and so I think that just goes to show, if you really resonated with something that we said and talked about, maybe one of your friends does too, right? So send it to somebody.
Share it with them.
If you feel it. Like, we're not here like begging for growth.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we do believe what we're talking about matters to people. And so I think this is such an easy conversation. If you know somebody's struggling with something that we talk about, just be like, hey, I heard this and I thought about you. Why don't you check this out? And if nothing else, it's going to start a dialogue between you and that person, which would be great. But Friends. Yeah, like I said, we're going to be starting in Dear Laziness.
Dear Laziness.
Tonight. I want to ask you, Sheldon, because we got a list of topics that we kind of have, and we kind of go back and forth on what are we really feeling like talking about tonight whenever we record. But what does laziness mean to you? Like, what's your relationship been with it as you've grown up? Because I think this is a word that people can use as a way of really dogging on you. Yeah. I think it can be a way that we use to weaponize against ourselves. But also, I think that there is kind of this conversation around our age group, and we're kind of on the upper end of this generation, but our age group as being lazy people that don't want to work. Right. So it's all around us, and I'm interested to hear, what's your experience with laziness? Like, what has it meant for you in your life?
I think just by my personality style, I'm more of a go-getter. Okay, I have a drive and ambition, and I want to do stuff. I want to make things happen. But laziness has really been the bane of my existence. Okay. Because when the going gets tough, my propensity is to like, oh, I'm just gonna relax. Mm-hmm. Or for me, laziness for me is doing the bare minimum. When I know I should be doing above and beyond. And so all throughout my childhood, it's like, you know, especially in school, like the big thing is school has always been easy for me from elementary all the way through college. Like school was never hard for me, except for I had 2 classes, stats and then my capstone class. Stats. Name them. I added a major. I added a whole major just so I can pass stats, which is crazy. Oh my gosh. Yes, I hated it. Stats didn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And then my capstone class, that guy was just making it incredibly difficult. But other than that, 98% of the school was just came natural. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna do what I need to do to get by. Sure. I don't need to go above and beyond. That's lazy because I am operating beneath what my potential is and what I know I can do. And so because of that, a lot of times I have built up that strong muscle of only doing the bare minimum and getting by that. And it's one of those things for me where I understand that the Lord wants us to do everything and for his glory. Is me doing the bare minimum bringing him glory, truly? To some people that might say, yeah, but I think it's one of those things where he's asking you, hey, is your effort bringing me glory? And when you ask yourself that question, I think you come to the realization, like, you know what? I know I should be doing more. I know I could be doing more. I know I should be giving my best effort, you know, using the gifts that he's given me and all these different things. Yeah. And so, when it comes to like the cultural defiance of laziness, you know, we live in a hustle culture. Like that's the Western society. Yeah, no, go get it, get it by yourself, build and stack and all these different things. And when you're not buying into that narrative, sometimes it can look like you're being lazy because you're not doing X, Y, and Z, and you're not, you know, working 60, 70 hours a week to whatever just to stack your bread and all that stuff. That's not the road I'm on. I'm not on that spectrum. But for me, I know it's like right now, I would have to say I have been lazy like literally the last 2 weeks. If y'all listen to the last episode, I talk about the best sleep I ever got in my life. I have not slept well since that night. Since that day. I'm not lying to you. I have not slept well since that time. Yeah. And I have developed a really nasty habit of not being able to get up in the morning. Like I wake up and I have zero willpower to get out of the bed and do the things I know I need to do to make sure my day is as efficient as possible. Right. And so I'm trying to balance in between, okay, Lord, what exactly do you want me? Do you actually want me to wake up early and sacrifice the sleep? Or are you actually inviting me to say, hey, I want you to get rest and I'm going to show you how to be disciplined throughout the day with the less, quote unquote, less time that I've given you that you have since you woken up later. But in reality, I've had more of a what's the word I want to use? I've had more of a negative view of laziness to myself. I would be nice against myself, but you just being lazy. Gotcha. It can use it as a motivator for sure, but at some point, it gets to a place of unhealth.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is one of those areas we have to be clear biblically. Whenever the Bible's talking about laziness, it does not look at it in a great light. Right. But I also think that societally, like we're in that hustle culture that you're talking about, there is sometimes we don't know when enough is enough. Yeah. Right. So when I think about laziness, like I didn't have parents that ever called me lazy or like made me think it was part of my identity. But I know several people who that was how they were described. You know, I think about my wife who has ADHD, and because the way her brain works is different. And like I would encourage anybody, if you know somebody that has ADHD, if you are in a relationship with them, like figure it out, because it is different and we don't talk about it a lot. But whenever people or whenever she wasn't doing what she was expected to do, there was a laziness kind of thrown around. And so I wonder how much of what we've internalized over time is this kind of relationship where I equate laziness to what other people expect of me. So when I'm similar situation, when I go through school, it's really easy to me. I'm always kind of like top of my class. Like I'm not having to work very hard. It just kind of comes naturally to me. And in Christian circles as well, you know, I'd have the right answer. I'd be able to articulate it well. And so all throughout my kind of formative years of school, whether it was at the end of grade school or middle school or, you know, high school, I'm getting kind of told over and over again, you have so much potential. Oh, man. Right. Yeah. You've got so much, you're going to change the world, you know, and I think that there is some validity to encouraging people that are coming up, especially young people, you know, like we're 26 now, but we also remember what it was like to be 16, and we remember what it was like to not know all the things that we know now, and to have those kind of doubts that come up. And not that we don't have doubts anymore, but I remember what it was like to be that. And so I think it's valuable to encourage, but I think sometimes we throw such kind of lofty expectations, or if you really don't know that person, you might just be like adding another thing to the fire, right? Where I kind of felt at some point I was viewed as kind of like the poster child of our ministry and stuff like that. Now, there might be plenty of people who went to our ministry and be like, that's all in your head. And that might be true, you know, but my experiences just felt like, okay, everybody expects me to be great. And so if I am not constantly being amazing and excellent, I'm being lazy, which is not true, right? There is a balance. And I think we have to know when enough is enough, which is why I think it's fascinating that when you take laziness in the Bible, specifically in the Proverbs and some Psalms and all that kind of stuff, it treats it very harshly, right? And rightfully so. And also, God set aside a whole day that we rest and that we don't have to grind and hustle. So there's both. But yeah, I don't think I had I felt lazy in the sense that I wasn't living up to who I thought I could be or should be in other people's eyes. Some of that is maybe people pleaser and not wanting to disappoint other people. But I think it's an important conversation now as we try to calibrate in our own lives. Yeah, I don't necessarily need to be on 100% of the days. But I also know that with what God has given me and what he's put in me, I have a responsibility to follow through and to work hard. Right. So for you, as you're going throughout, you know, kind of your days and weeks and those kinds of things, what are kind of the differences between when you think you're being lazy and when you think you're just trying to run at a good pace, like the pace God has asked you to walk at?
One word: procrastination.
Oh, interesting. So procrastination is kind of the dead giveaway. What does that look like for you when you're procrastinating something?
I am not doing what I know I need to be doing.
Just putting it off?
Just straight shoot. I'll just put it off until I absolutely have to do it. Because I built up I going back to the school example, I've noticed it first in school, and I started to notice in the different other areas of my life, was I convinced myself, like, hey, you thrive best in crunch time. Oh, you thrive best in crunch time.
That's true.
And I'm it's crazy because some of my best work has happened in crunch time. My best PowerPoints, my best projects, my best papers, all these different things happen when I have to do it under the wire, because I can put 100,000% of my focus into this thing, and we're doing it. But there's also, just as much as I've...
Shout out.
What's up, Wiggles? And just as much as I, benefited from that, I've also have not benefited from that. Right. Like, now I'm stressed. I would have just, took the small steps and been consistent throughout. I wouldn't have to put all this time and all this effort, because a lot of times when you do get to the crunch time, you want to do something well, it's like, man, I would rather be doing something else. Yep. And for example, right now I was doing a 75 hard challenge, and I know if I start my day early, it's a breeze.
Easy.
It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, it was pretty difficult because I had to oh wow, this is what being on a disciplined schedule looks like. I'm not about this. Yeah. That's why I failed. That's why I failed twice before I finished my third time. But we keep moving. But anyway. I throw out my own L's, man. Yeah. Christ's power was made perfect in weakness.
That's right. Come on.
And so, if I know I'm not starting in the morning, then now it's 10:30, 11, borderline 12 o'clock, and I still got to read. I still got to do a workout. I still got to drink this water. I'm just like, man, I would much rather be sleeping right now. I would much rather be chilling and doing nothing, or having time with God and the Word. But when I finish, I just want to go straight to bed. Yeah. So now I'm up late, and since I'm up late, I'm not getting up early, and I just been continuing that cycle for about literally 2 or 3 weeks now, and I'm just like, man, I'm tired of being in this cycle. So if I just stop procrastinating and do what I need to do, then I know what the effect will look like. My efficiency percentage will go up and all these different things. But when I'm procrastinating, that's why I know that, one, there are things I know I need to be doing, but that also lets me know that, hey, you're being lazy because you know what you need to do. You just need to do them. It's not nothing that's bad. Yep. You just need to take care of this. If you take care of it, guess what? You have ample more amount of time to do what you actually want to do. And that's like a paradox that I've kind of fallen in, is if I just don't want to do this task so much. Yeah. Like, the thought of me doing the task literally makes me cringe, and I don't want to do it. and I feel it in my bones, and I'm feeling this war in myself. Like, man, if I just do this thing and get it over with, I'll probably finish it in 5 minutes.
Right.
But because the image I have in my head of it is so tantalizing and so uncomfortable, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it off. Okay, now I have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I know when. Okay, man. Now it's because when I procrastinate, it only just happened one time. It just happens consistently over and over, and it builds his muscle. And I'm like, now I gotta unlearn this thing. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I think procrastination is a great kind of indicator, because I think the issue, I think, like in society, like movies, we kind of throw procrastinating as like a sign of a bad student. I think in a lot of ways, but I think it's the most dangerous for smart students because it works.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I found out that I can write a long paper in a couple hours before it's due. I found that out because I didn't want to do it. And then I did it. And then I was like, well, if it's going to take 2 hours anyway, let me just wait until the last 2 hours that I got and then get it done.
Good grade.
Right? Like, and then I was always that kind of student that teachers, were like, you can't get 100 in my class, and English teachers, we all know them. But you can't get it perfect, and like they'd be like, okay, but this one was really good, and I gave it, the great score. And I was like, oh yeah, well I did it like, last night or this morning at 4 because I knew I had to wake up and give myself time to do that. The issue is that it works until it doesn't. Right. And we've trained ourselves in a lot of ways to wait till the last minute, and we've told ourselves a couple lies about it. My best work happens whenever I do this. That's just confirmation bias. Like, you mean to tell me over more time you couldn't have improved upon it and made it better?
Right.
That's ridiculous, right? And that, like, my best version procrastinates. And I'll be able to do this forever, right? The issue is that as you then transition into adulthood, where a lot of smart students have a difficulty making that jump, is until you don't have enough time and you fail and it comes back into your face. A lot of people have to deal with that beforehand. If you're not great at procrastinating and you just don't do your work, right? When I say great at it, I mean like you can pull it off. But you learn about, oh, well, I didn't get my homework done, and so now I need to do something different. The issue is it just keeps working. You kind of just keep building the cycle in your head. And then it gets to a point where when we're talking about big adult things that you want to procrastinate, you can't. And then you fail at the bigger stage, at the bigger level. And that's a difficult thing to do. I think that there's a line with laziness that, my mom always used to give me when I was growing up. And it might sound a little bit intense at first. And to be fair, I came from an intense home. But she would always tell me, like, I'm trying to phrase it not in a crazy way. But essentially the message that she was telling me is, you never know when God is going to take away the time that you think you have. Yeah. You never know. So if I'm getting home from school and I get home at 4 and I know I got a paper due the next day, or I've got 2 weeks to do it, and I'm like, I'll just wait. It's going to take me a day anyway, and I wait till the last day to do it, and then an emergency comes up, or I'm sick, or the time that I thought I was going to have, well, I didn't sleep at all last night, so I'm not even in a good headspace. Well, I banked all of it on this one set of circumstances that was not guaranteed to happen. And my mom always used to say, like, if God can't trust you with that time, he'll take it. And I was like, all right, Mom, like, I'm 12, like,
you hit me with some,
I don't know how to handle that.
This is
that, like, DLC deluxe. I ain't there yet. I'm on the basic story right now. But I mean, it is true in a lot of ways. And for a lot of people, like, if you're my wife, you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh. But what it meant for me is like, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's facts.
And I do know that I have time today.
Facts.
So in the event that something does happen that's unforeseen, because I've lived enough life to know, like, we are always one phone call away from life drastically changing.
Facts.
Right? At all points. And a lot of times, some of it is just the discipline and the responsibility of using time that you have right now, because you don't know when you're not going to have it, right? Like, if I got something due on a Friday and Thursday night there's a birthday party that I find out about and I really want to be there and connect with people, now I got to pick. If I would have just done it on Monday when I had time, or at least get started on it so it won't take as long. So I think there's a line of procrastination. Like, I don't think that means you got to be the kind of people that, and maybe I don't know, but like the moment you get an assignment, you go home, you start working on it. Like, y'all freaks to me, to be honest. I don't get it.
I commend y'all, honestly.
Y'all different.
I don't get it.
I can't do it. You know, I've gotten better at starting it, but I think there is a level of, we talk about how we steward our resources and our gifts. Mm-hmm. How do you steward your time? Yeah. You know, that's an important thing to God, I think. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and obviously we're talking about procrastination as kind of the symbol or the indicator that maybe we're just being lazy instead of walking at the right pace. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, I think it's difficult for me sometimes to know, hey, when am I allowed to rest? Because I always feel like I have to overachieve because I've been overachieving and people expect that from me. And so I have to know when I need to not, which I think a lot of this conversation, we'll probably get on this on a different episode. If you don't Sabbath right, I don't think you're ever going to get a right relationship with laziness.
Oh, for real.
Right? Like, if you don't have time set aside in your schedule to rest in the Lord and know that your productivity isn't the most important thing in the world, then you're going to, I think, be riddled with laziness because you're always trying to find ways to get rest. But, you know, we were talking about a little bit earlier that laziness, especially as we were younger, maybe it looked more like homework. It looked more like just responsibilities that we had to do. We had to take out the trash. We got to mow the lawn, you know, things like that. But as we've gotten older, I think that there's been even mental and spiritual components to laziness. Yeah. What about times in your life when you felt like you've been lazy in your spiritual walk with God?
Oof. Man, I want to backtrack because what you said was if you don't have a good relationship with Sabbath, you're never going to get the right view of laziness. You can be riddled with it. But that's so true. I had to move the mic. I realized I was talking more far from the mic. I'm trying to get that mic discipline, y'all.
We're learning.
We're learning. But that is so true in my life because rest was something that never made sense to me. Like, I don't think I was on the side that I had to earn my rest, but just resting in the fact that God rested on the 7th day just because he completed his work that he set out to do.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Nothing more, nothing less. And so, for me, the laziness comes in because I don't ever complete what I set out to do.
That hurts.
Like, how can I rest when the work is not, when the job is not finished?
It's really good, Sheldon.
If I'm resting when a job is not finished, by definition, that is laziness. Do I have the capacity to finish these things in the allotted time that I've been given? Like you said, I don't know how much time I'm going to have. I don't know if I'm going to have another day to finish this thing. But I know I have time today, so why not just finish it today? Because I can tell you, I speak about my own L's all the time. If you know me, I have no shame to talk about my L's. Yeah. A major L that I constantly take over and over and over again is due to my pride. And I heard this quote is like, procrastination dash laziness is me basically telling God that I know you're going to give me another day.
Right, exactly.
I know you're going to give me another day, so I'll do it tomorrow.
Yep.
I don't know if I have tomorrow.
Bruh.
Like,
or you don't know if tomorrow's going to need something different from you. And now I can't step into what God has for me today because I was lazy with what I had yesterday. But I think what you're saying is so true. It makes you think of what PC talks about all the time with Sunday mornings, that Sunday morning is a Saturday night decision. Right? So I think we get this kind of weird legalistic approach to rest, you know, because we read about in the Old Testament that when somebody's Sabbathing, right, like you get the story in Numbers where they find a man that's carrying wood around on the mountain and they're like, God's like, kill him. And you're like, oh, okay, I don't know what to do with that. And they're difficult passages around rest. But some of the point and what PC is saying when he's saying that is you have to work hard before you rest. Or should I say, not that way. I think that's a bad interpretation of that. Like Saturday, the day before Sabbath, finish the work. Finish what you have to so that you don't have to do anything on the Sabbath day. Right? So this is the idea, especially in the desert with the Israelites where they had manna coming from heaven. They would tell them on the 6th day, you're going to gather the same amount, but it will turn out to be, or you need to gather enough for the Sabbath day as well. Right? So there's that line where it might take some planning on our behalf so that we don't have to do things
right
when we're supposed to be resting. But we don't have to be so legalistic about it, as Jesus, rebukes some of the Pharisees later on in the New Testament. Was man created for Sabbath or Sabbath for the man, right? Like, it's supposed to be a benefit to us. But you're so right. You're so right in how it's just like, oh, there's an arrogance about it. That's like, yeah, God's going to give me another chance. God's going to show. He's and whether we say it or not, there's kind of that lingering, well, I deserve it.
Right.
Or he's always done it.
And that's the thing, going back to the reason why you do it, because it's worked before and it keeps working.
Yep.
But like you said, we walk that fine line, and it's working until it's not. And when it doesn't work that one time, your whole world's going to be like turned upside down.
Yeah, if the stakes are high enough.
And so just to give you like a story about that, like right now, if y'all don't know, if y'all listen to these episodes, I'm a tennis director right now, right? Before that, I graduated high school. I graduated high school, went to college. Cool.
Shout out.
After I finished college and all that stuff, I moved back to Houston looking for a job. And I ended up getting this job as consultant oil and gas. And so this would be another episode for another day, but nobody really talks about the struggle between the college life, especially the college life as an athlete, to the very 9 to 5. Okay, and now I'm working the desk and all these different things. Yeah, like this is totally different. Nobody tells you or teach you how to be prepared for that. But regardless of that, I got blessed with this job, and I knew I was well underqualified for this job. They told me that in an interview, hey, we're not hiring you for your expertise. We're hiring you because you're a blank slate. We can teach you everything, right? And so in this job, based off the duties that I was given at first, it was like a lot of small, easy stuff, like, editing things and figuring stuff out. I'm still trained to a lot of stuff, so they had a lot of leeway. And right, so one of their two of their core values is it's okay to make mistakes, but don't repeat them, right? And then the second one was don't make excuses. Own it. Yeah, like call your own files, own it, take some ownership. And so what I realized was, even with the little things they were giving me, I was not stewarding those things well. They're like, I remember vividly several times I had to. It was very tedious. Right, that's one thing I noticed about myself. When it's something that's really tedious, I'm like, this is below me.
It's stupid.
This is beneath me. I'm not about to finish this.
Yeah.
But really, I'm looking back. It's like, man, my work ethic sucked. That's why they ended up letting me go. Yeah. And they tried to give me chance after chance after chance after chance. Like, hey, like, want to see more drive. Putting it nicely. That's what they're saying. Hey, I want to see more drive. I want to see more hunger. All these different things. I was like, yeah, I got you. I'll do it for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then after that, I'm right back to where I was before. Yeah. Because I didn't have the drive and the hunger because my work ethic sucked. Quite frankly. And it took me getting let go to realize that. And then I start this new job, and I realized I was taking the exact same mentality from that job to this one. Granted, yes, was I more equipped to do tennis? I played for half my life, and I played college, and I coached college, and all that stuff. I was equipped to do that. But just because I was equipped to do that doesn't mean that the result would be there if I didn't work and put effort into it. Yeah. And so I'm approaching a year. It'd be a year that I started there in May. And now I'm starting to realize, like, man, I really have to go above and beyond with everything that I'm doing. Because not only does that, like, help the business grow and people are fed and people are taken good care of because it's hospitality. And at the end of the day. But this shows my allegiance to God.
That's it. It's really good.
If I go to Colossians 3 and I look at it and say, whatever I do, whether it's in deed or in thought, I should do everything to the Lord. Right. If I really know what that means, like really take that verse and look at there's so many layers to that verse, but if I just take that and implement that in my life, everything I should do it as hard as I can. And I will let God tell me, hey, you're doing too much. Calm down. Yeah. Like, relax. You don't gotta do that. But what I don't want to find myself in is him telling me, hey, you need to pick it up. Because I find it's much harder to slow down than to speed up.
Yeah, it's good.
It's much harder to slow down than to speed up. And it's just one of those things for me where I have to be honest and open with where I am in the moment. It's like, okay, why do I want to be lazy? Why do I not want to do these things? Yeah. Why is this, and this? And a lot of it truly came from I just did not have the right perspective of God. Like, it was arrogance, it was pride, and entitlement. That's what I'm getting at. It was entitlement that, hey, even though I know I did nothing to deserve this job, you gave me this job, but now I have this entitlement, like, I'm doing this. It's me doing this, God. You're not here doing this. It's me doing it. And so because of that, when the little things, like, for example, we have to put up windscreens, and it gets windy. I'll put up a windscreen, and then the wind will blow it right down. Like literally 30 minutes later, I'm like, bro, I'm not about to put that back up. I just spent an hour doing it. And then it's crazy. Our assistant GM got on to me. He's like, hey, I don't care. Like, if it happens, it's the effort that counts. When she said that, I was like, wow. Okay, God, I hear you. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. It's the effort that counts. No matter if it's tedious, it doesn't matter if you don't like doing it. If you have placed me here to steward this well, based off of my job title, it'd be different if I was trying to do stuff not outside of my scope of what you've been giving me. But this is directly under my umbrella of what you have given me to steward. Right. Then therefore, by that basis, I have to do these things. I should. Then me wanting to have to do it turns to I want to do these things. Now I'm glad to do these things. Now I am taking care of this. Now God, thank you for this opportunity. And see how this shifts through that. And so that's what I'm kind of learning right now is just I gotta get rid of the entitlement and the pride, man. Because when that happens, the laziness kicks in, and then things don't get done. And then now you back to square one. If I would have just done it then, I wouldn't have to worry about this now, and I can have time to do so many other things. You can look in every area of your life if you do that. If you're that type of person, I beg you, like unlearn that. You have to, because it's gonna come a point to a time where you're gonna. I hate for you to have to hurt somebody else because of your inaction.
It's really good.
I would hate for you to have to hurt somebody else due to your inaction.
Yeah.
To not be prepared, not to be paranoid. That's not what I'm saying, but to be prepared to step into, like you were saying, AJ, step into the Sabbath. Prepared because the day before I was ready to actually now I can rest. I don't have to think about this. I don't worry about that. Yeah. And so I don't know.
That's so good. I think immediately it makes me think of a couple of things. I think one of those that you're hitting on, we don't expect anybody to bat 1,000, right? We don't expect anybody to be perfect all the time. Right. And also because we know we're going to mess up, there's such a wisdom to what you're saying, which is learn the lesson when the stakes are low. Yeah. Right? Like, I don't know who's listening and needs to hear that, but learn the lessons when the stakes are low. Facts. And what I'm saying is the things that you do right now, you might not think about it long term, but they are changing who you're becoming. Right. For better or for worse. And everybody, it's both. But as you get older and God gives you more responsibility, or you just find yourself in areas with a spouse, with kids, with whatever, you pay bills now, I don't want you to think that you have to be perfect, because you can't be. So when you mess up, not if, when you mess up, take the wisdom that Sheldon is talking about and saying, how can I apply this to me now so that I'm not making the royal screw up later that could have been avoided if I would have learned the lesson when I was working this job, whatever. One of those things that for me, the first job that I got was working at McDonald's, right? And I worked at a Walmart location, so I'm inside Walmart store, and as a sign off on what Sheldon was just saying, I need to be so clear about this. Like, Christians and those who have said that in the public eye, like, I follow Christ, we better be hard workers.
No, for real.
We better be hard workers. Like, you don't get around it. You do not get around it. And I'm not saying that your salvation is tied up into how hard you work. Right. But let it not be said of us as a group of believers that we love Jesus, but we hate work. Because those things don't make sense together. Antithetical. Like, the reason that we love Jesus is because Jesus committed himself to doing the work on our behalf. Right? And so now we have the opportunity not to, pay Jesus back. We could never repay the debt that we're owed. But we work hard, and I thought of that verse immediately, right? Before you brought it up. But we work unto as if it was the Lord and not for our human bosses. Right? And one of those ways that shows up is, I remember being 18, and I remember working at that McDonald's, and there was a coworker of mine that one day was like, there's something different about you, man. Like, I don't understand how you're able to always be upbeat, and I don't understand how you're able to always handle difficult customers, and you're on time, and you're good at your job. You work hard. What's up? And that's a really cliche way I think high schoolers usually get their first experience of sharing the gospel. But I was able to be like, well, it's because I love Jesus, man, and what he's done for me. Like, it's out of this overflow now of what he's done. Yeah. Your work ethic might speak to somebody before your words do. Right? And I think we get in a weird balance sometimes. We like talking about your life speaks. Like, you, listen, the time will come where you need to share with your mouth. Facts. Right? Factual. Like, God, it is why you have a voice.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the things that you do and how you act set the stage and the table for what you're going to say. Mm-hmm. I had more weight with him because I was a hard worker, mm-hmm. right? And that doesn't mean if you start working at your job, everybody in the office is going to be saved because you're a hard worker. Right. But it does mean that, like, if that would have been an issue for them because you weren't good at your job, and you're like, I ain't going to listen to you. You suck at your job. You don't care. You don't want to be here. Nobody thinks that you're working hard and you're making it harder on the rest of us. Man, they probably don't want to hear from you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I think as it comes to your work ethic, as a believer in Christ, like you're saying, we have to get rid of the entitlement that makes us feel like we're owed a job. If God gave me the position I have because I needed it to meet my own needs and that was it, we're missing the bigger picture. You have been entrusted with that job. Yep. You have been given that because it's all God's anyway. Right. It's all His. Yeah. And so if I'm going to job, I'm like, yeah, I work and I'm just here to pay the bills. Maybe I'm not incentivized to be a hard worker. Like, and I get, like, there's even, especially in America, this is a big conversation, but, like, hear me out. Like, if you need to fight for a raise to live, like, I'm not saying don't just be somebody that, like, is willing to do anything anybody says and never have a backbone and not be able to do any of that kind of, like, trust me, I raise the questions. I talk. I have those conversations. I don't let people, just walk over me because I'm like, well, God wants me to work hard, and so that means people could treat me like crap. Like, there is that space for not getting vengeance, and then there's that space of like, hey, well, I can also help change a culture here. But the point being, like, you can't tell me I love God and I have an issue with every authority in my life and I don't want to work hard for other people. Oh, you don't get it then. You don't get it. But I think it's a brilliant kind of observation that you've brought up. And as we talked about laziness, now we're kind of getting underneath it, this entitlement and this pride of, I'm going to have tomorrow. You don't know that. Right. Or it might not look how you think it looks. Things might change. Or that, your job is really just self-serving. Well, it's just for me. I just come here to get a paycheck. Like, listen, if I didn't get paid, I wouldn't go to work either, okay? Like, or I would go work a different job. I wouldn't be working the one I do right now because it's not just about finding, like, the thing that you want to do forever. It's about, man, God's providing me with literal provision in this job right now. But how I work and how I carry myself matters. It's a part of my testimony. It's a part of how people look at me. And so I think when we talk about as well, we have this kind of weird disconnect in our head that's like, yeah, I don't like authority in my house. Like, I don't like listening to my boss at work, but somehow I think I'm going to flip that off when I'm talking to God instead. Right. It's a reflection. So well, no. If you're not already doing that with God, right? This is I think the Roman centurion who comes to Jesus and he's got a daughter or something that needs to be healed, or a son, or, somebody's in his house, and, Jesus is like having this conversation with him, and he's like, dude, Jesus, you don't even got to come with, if you just say it, it'll be done. And what he goes on to say is, I'm a man of authority and under authority. So I have people above me that tell me what to do and where to go, and I do that for people below me. And so I know when I say go and do this, it's done. Essentially saying, I know you've got the authority to just say it and it will happen. There will be healing that's done. And Jesus is like, he looks around his disciples like, I haven't seen faith like this in all of Israel. Right. Like, he ain't even one of mine.
And he recognizes game.
And he knows that all authority is mine. Right? And so there is this, I would look at the areas of your life that you struggle with laziness the most. I mean, I hate to be that guy because it makes me feel older every time we have this conversation. But, like, you getting an education is a gift. There are so many people all across the world that don't get what you have, especially if you're listening to this in America. Thanks. And I'm not saying everything's perfect. Like, there's huge reforms that need to come to education around our country. And at the same time, there are people that would kill to be in your position.
That's it right there.
So we have to have the idea of, I'm working for God anyway, and I need to be grateful. And the way I show I'm grateful for the opportunities that I have is that I work hard when I get them. Right? I think going back to different areas of our life and assessing what areas do I feel like I struggle the most with laziness, it might just reveal an area of your spirituality that you struggle with God. Because I'm telling you, dude, I could not love my wife more and become a better husband without understanding that dynamic already with God. It all informs each other. But when we think now about kind of laziness, I actually want to hear it a little bit differently from you now. If you were telling your 16-year-old self, hey, we're going to struggle with laziness. And we've already talked about a little bit of like maybe some of the tricks or tips or things to focus in on. What do you think, and feel free to take this question wherever you want to go.
Okay.
What do you think it has cost you 10 years ago? If you would have learned some of these lessons 10 years ago,
dude,
what would be different today? And hear me when I say this, because I feel like sometimes I ask these kind of questions and like your gut just like sinks a little bit. This isn't because we want you guys to feel ashamed of the decision that you made, because everybody could have a conversation with us 10 years ago and be like, man, we really missed it in some of these areas. But the reason it's important for Sheldon and I to have these conversations is so that potentially you don't find out 10 years later. Maybe it's only 8, maybe it's only 6, maybe today you find out and you don't got to go through that. But what do you think would be different?
Man, the first thing that came to mind is what would granted, as you hindsight is always 2020. Always 2020. So this is all hypothetical, right? Yeah. I know I would not have so much student debt in my life if I would have simply just taken care of school and taken care of my grades and used the wit, the smarts, the mass capacity to learn and to just be able to be a studious student.
Yep.
And get to the top of my class and get the scholarships and all these different things. I'm just like, bro, like, nobody, that's the thing, nobody was telling me that, hey, you can do more. And then the reason why nobody was telling me you can do more, because that was expected of me. Because if you're one of those people who are just naturally gifted at things, or not just naturally gifted, when God gives you a gift and you are walking in that gift, whether you realize it or not, other people will know.
That's right.
And so if you've been given the gift of intellect to be able to grasp things, to learn things, and all these different things, it's going to be evident, because you can do the bare minimum. And I don't want to sound conceited when I say this. Your bare minimum is a lot of people's max effort.
Yeah.
Because that is a gift from God. You didn't do anything to deserve that. Yeah. He gave that to you. That's right. And that's just where you land. And so you don't have anybody who can recognize that gift in your life to say, hey, there is more you can be doing, and there's more you should be doing. And because I didn't have anybody in my life to tell me that, I mean, I saw it in sports. Like, God gave me the just natural athleticism. Granted, I'm vertically challenged, but all the sports that I played, I've been really good at them. Every single one of them. Yeah. And I had, like, I remember I can go back to college, man. I'm like, man, why is nobody pushing me to be better? It was just expected of me to stay solid, be consistent, and do what you need to do. I had nobody pushing me. Hey, you can do more. You can do another rep. You can do another set. All of a sudden, because now you're faster than everybody and you do this better than everybody else and all these different things, that does not mean you don't be who all God has called you to be. Yeah. Just because your environment is not conducive of that growth that you might need. And so, quite frankly, I don't know what I have sacrificed, truly. And at the end of the day, I don't want to know what I sacrificed if I look back at it, because, I mean, I see how God has used all that for this time. And I was literally having this conversation. Like, if I didn't have all the student debt, I wouldn't be living at home. I probably wouldn't be back in Houston. Right. Me living at home and being in Houston has been the biggest blessing in my life. Being close to my family, being close to my mom and dad, because I didn't really have that close relationship with them. Getting to see them grow in their marriage and unlearn and heal from a lot of things from childhood. Just seeing them grow and having conversations with them, like, that's invaluable. Yeah. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Yeah. Forget the debt. That's just money. That's gonna last a lifetime. Yeah, we literally wouldn't be talking right now. We would not be talking. It wouldn't have happened if those things did not happen. Right. But they didn't have to happen that way. 1000%. They didn't have to happen that way. I didn't have to go through, because I can look back, go all the way back. I remember the day that I said I'm not trying to school anymore. It was my 8th grade year. Something dumb happened with the state. They made this thing into where you didn't have to. You were gonna pass the state test regardless. They're gonna send people through. Second, if you're taking advanced classes, they're going to put you out of advanced classes to put you in regular classes so you can pass the state test. I'm like, that's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing you can do. At that moment, I was like, I don't care anymore. This is dumb. This is pointless. And so I stopped caring. Entitlement.
Yeah.
Pride. I thought I was beneath that. But if I was just like, you know what? I'm still going to give my best regardless. Who knows? Another example that y'all bringing stuff back. This is crazy. There's a scholarship called the Gates Millennium Scholarship.
Oh, he got the name.
It's called the Bill Gates Millennium Scholarship. It's a minority scholarship that goes out to students and it pays for all 4 years of college. And if your grades are good enough, good standing, they might even pay for grad school and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, wow.
And so based off where I grew up in Beaumont, since most of the schools out there are minority based, it's very difficult to get those scholarships.
Sure.
But when I moved out to Atascocita, where it's the school I went to at the time was 75% white.
Yeah.
If I would have applied for that and did everything in a timely manner, I probably would have been in running to get it.
Sure.
Because there's only one other person that actually applied for that at our school. One other person.
Yeah.
You wanna know what happened? All I had to do, not write essays. I just needed references. And I waited to the night that the application closed to get my references. I didn't get them.
Yeah.
And I tried to play it off like, oh, the system crashed and all this stuff. But I knew.
Nah, you dropped the ball.
Like, I missed out on a lifetime opportunity to have my future drastically changed.
Yeah.
Because of my procrastination and my laziness. Because I'm like, no, what? It's okay. I have time.
Wow.
I don't know what would have. I don't even know if I would have been selected. I don't even know if I would have got it.
There's no guarantee.
But the fact that I could have put my foot in the door, and I think you put me against somebody else, I'm gonna make a good case for myself.
Yeah,
I'm gonna sell myself if it comes to that. If it comes to like a scholarship that's worth $1 million, like I know people that got it, bro. They're getting paid like $20K a semester.
Can't change their life
as an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
just to go to school.
Yeah,
nuts.
Yeah.
And so, man, I don't know what other areas of my life that I forfeited because of that. Actually, I do know. God caught another one. Oh my God! He's cooking. God caught another one. This goes back to my college sentence days.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really pushed. I didn't really give my max effort until my senior year.
Right.
I was like, you know what? It's my senior year. I'm gonna go with a bang.
Yeah.
I didn't start hitting the gym. I didn't start eating right. I didn't stop drinking alcohol. All these different things. I didn't start getting on sleep schedule. All this different stuff that you should be doing as a committed athlete. Yeah, not just a collegiate, committed athlite.
Yep.
Middle school, not elementary.
4 years old, committed grind. 3 gym sessions.
Nick Saban. if he was retired, he was not right now.
Come on.
But I waited till 4 years into my college career to start caring. And then what happened? The moment I really gave effort and I really saw like major jumps, not only in my tennis game, my mental game. Also, I was putting a lot of work spiritually as well to work on that stuff. I think that's where it drove from first. And all of a sudden, I did all that work, and then COVID happened, and I was taken away. And I'm just like, God, why did I had the gall? I look back like, you were so prideful. Yeah. I had the gall, like, God, why did you let me work so hard for it not to produce anything? You know what he told me? If you'd have worked like this from the beginning, you would have had these things before.
That hurts me.
I'm just like,
that is so tough and so real.
See, that's how me and God talk. God does not. He speaks to me very plainly and directly. And please hear me when I say this. The things that I've gone through, the L's that I have taken, I do not want y'all to find yourself in a place of disappointment based off of your lack of performance. And I don't want to say performance is the measure, is the metric that you use to say, am I being a good Christian? No, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But if you know God has given you a gift and he has given you the opportunity to actually work at something at the best of your ability, then do it. Just straight up and do it. Like, that's right. There is no if, and, or but. Yep. Do it. Because you don't know how many people are going to be blessed and are waiting for you to commit to the things that God is giving you to do, to give you the max effort that will come from that. And of course, you're going to receive some of that. Most definitely. Why would he not? God is too good not to bless you, like to give you the fruit of your own labor. Yeah. You might not see it immediately, but you're going to reap that fruit somehow, some way. I can't tell you exactly how or what, because I'm not God, not in your life, but speaking from my own life, I'm sure AJ can tell you the same thing. Yeah. And so I like to turn the question back on you. Like, what are some things that you think that you might missed out on because of the same?
Yeah, it is a great question, and it's a tough one, right? Because it really is like, look back in your life and where did you blow it potentially? Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about, like, we don't know what would have happened, you know, if something goes differently, and God is so good that the promise is no matter what you do, you're not going to throw off his plan. He's going to use it no matter what you got. But I remember a pastor of mine at the time, I had kind of explained one of these things. Essentially, you know, I went to a private college, a Christian university, HBU, now HCU, shout out, for a year, which is where I met my wife, and I loved it. And I had always wanted to go get higher education to learn about Christianity and theology and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just always fascinated me. I got $100,000 in scholarships to go. I graduated probably, like, genuinely, like, number 11 in my class of like 800, you know, some. And so I probably could have gone to a lot of, like, regular public universities on a full ride. And my dad made sure I knew that. But I was like, I want to go learn about Christianity. And so why would I go to a public school when I can go to somewhere that specializes in it?
Right.
And it still cost me about $5,000 out of pocket every semester. Do you know, like, your point about those grants and those scholarships? The fact that I had gotten that much scholarship without even trying in school.
Imagine how much you would have got if you would have applied yourself.
I would have actually applied myself throughout the semester. And listen, dude, college, there was a lot of classes I was taking, and it was a lot of work in honors college, reading a lot of stuff. I know for a fact I could have put a better foot down in terms of, like, applying for scholarships throughout the semester. But I didn't. And then after 2 semesters, I dropped out. Now, what I said was, I just don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. Now, that was a real feeling that I had. I really felt like I was supposed to move back and still help out with the church that I was at and really dig deep in there. And there's a story in that I talked about a little bit about just really wanting to learn hands-on ministry experience before I learned everything in the head. But would I have made that decision if I didn't have to pay money?
Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
Yeah, probably not.
I think I would have seen it out, and I think I would have seen it through, and I think I would have a degree by now, and I think all those kinds of things. To your point, I don't think that's a measure of whether or not my life's on track. Okay, I'm not behind now because of that decision.
Right.
Like I said, I met my wife, but I told my pastor at the time, one of them, I was like, well, you know, I don't think that was the wrong decision. I met my wife when I went, and he was like, you don't think that God could have done that a different way? And I was like, all right, you're right. I'm done. My bad. All right.
Got him.
All right. Hands up. You know, like, I know when I've been beat. But him saying that was essentially like, don't ever confuse God's grace to you as his permission and approval for what you did.
Ooh, that's a whole other episode in itself.
Oh
my gosh.
Hurts.
Oh my gosh. That's an episode and a half, dude.
This is why when we talk about scripture is descriptive in a lot of stories, which means it is just telling you what happened. It is not saying that God advocates for this decision.
Right.
It's just letting you know that it happened. So for me to have the audacity to say, yeah, well, I think I was supposed to go to school for a year and then drop out, but also not apply myself while I'm there to try to get money to keep me in there, knowing that what I know about my family, that they're not about to come in and drop money because we didn't have it. To have the audacity to say, yeah, I'm supposed to go, but I'm not supposed to work hard. And then to come back and be like, no, I think this is what God wanted. How'd you know? You didn't try.
And, ooh, yes, bro.
We don't get to make the call to sit on the sideline and say, yeah, but I don't think God would have. Boy, you don't.
How do you know?
Yeah. The Bible is full of God showing up in unexpected ways through unexpected people.
Always.
To unexpected places. Bar. But for me to have the audacity to say just because it worked out, it's how God wanted to do it. No. The Bible says more than we could ask, think, imagine. Which is to say, if you could think it, it's bigger. You don't know it. I'm sitting here like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, to you. God's trying to play 4D chess, dude.
Yeah.
You can only play checkers. You don't know what's going on. So I think one of the things that it taught me was God's going to use my mistakes as well. I don't have to beat myself up about those decisions because I can look at the goodness of God and his grace to me.
Absolutely.
This is one of those areas I think when we talk about cohabitation with Christians. I think there are plenty of stories where I've talked to somebody and they're like, oh, well, it worked out for me.
But was that a wise decision?
Okay. Do you think God advocates for that choice? That we should put ourselves in these situations where it's even harder to fight off sin and temptation? No one would say that. But we're just like, yeah, but it worked out. And it's like, no. It worked out because your God is good and stronger than you are and smarter than you are.
Facts.
But at any point in time, if he decided to take off his grace and his hand on you, you would fall flat on your face. And so let's not ever confuse God working things together for the good and you making good decisions. Those are not always the same thing. And so when I think about school, maybe I'd be in a different place. Maybe when I think about even relationally, if I had been more committed to doing some of the harder work, I wouldn't have had to pay in relationship later on in life. And if you don't know my story, we did a lot about just my relationships in the past and where I came from. But I talked about a lot of that healing came later on when it caused problems. And sometimes you don't know until it's brought up. But there were things that I did know that I didn't take care of. So I think that there's this back and forth that you have to have in your life that's, hey, God's going to use whatever, and we're grateful because God is a better God than we would ever be. Right? We would mess it up. But man, do I feel that thing that like, just because it worked out don't mean it was the right choice. That's just because God is gracious to you. But it is a difficult thing then to think about what it costed us. Right? Because I think we need to be extremely clear. Laziness has a price. Right. And what I say a lot of times in this way, or when I'm talking about things like this, is you can pay now, or you can pay later with interest. And I'm gonna tell
you got to pay.
The interest ain't built in your favor. You are not going to want to pay as much as you have to later on. And another thing that I found myself saying a lot is that, and please hear this, like wise people don't pay full price for lessons if you can learn from somebody else who's already made the mistake. Right. Because they paid full price. I paid full price for that decision. All right? But you don't have to if you listen. Facts. You're still going to make mistakes. I'm still going to make mistakes. You're still making mistakes. Absolutely. But if we allow ourselves to be wise and learn from other people's experience, maybe we don't have to pay full price for it, you know? But I get it. It's a difficult thing to do. It is hard to undo laziness that's been baked into you over years. Right. But it is possible. And I think it takes just a level of self-awareness to look, why do I get lazy? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think I'm entitled or potentially prideful? All those kinds of things. Like, I just want to, just so you guys know that we're not just like throwing things at the wall here. There are a couple verses that we have here from Proverbs that I just want you to hear how God talks about it. Yeah. And what he thinks. This is Proverbs 18:9. Whoever is lazy regarding his work is also a brother to the master of destruction. Okay? Out the gate. Are you lazy? You're a family with the master of destruction, bro. You're right tear things down. Proverbs 21:25. The desire of the lazy man kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. Proverbs 10:4-5. Lazy hands bring poverty, but hardworking hands lead to wealth. Whoever harvests during summer acts wisely, but the son who sleeps during harvest is disgraceful.
This last one. Oh, dude.
Proverbs 21:25. Despite their desires, the lazy will come to ruin, for their hands refuse to work. So what the Bible is talking about when we talk about laziness is this idea that you're refusing to do the work, right? That's not necessarily all that we've talked about tonight, but the Bible deals very harshly because the reality is harsh. You will ruin yourself if you don't work. Right. Work is not the enemy. Work existed before sin did. Facts. Right? We know that in the timeline of Genesis. Adam had a job before they were kicked out of the garden. Work isn't the enemy. But laziness that says I don't have to work when there's work to be done. This is why it says, but the son who sleeps during harvest is disgraceful. This isn't the son who sleeps when he can sleep in, right? And doesn't got anything to do that day. This is when there's work to be done, he refuses to do it and he sleeps. The point being, there are things that God has given you and I that are in our hands that we have to get done.
Absolutely.
And if we decide, you know what, I don't want to do it, I can't help but notice as well, hearing Jesus in the New Testament say, the harvest is ready, but the workers are few. Maybe we don't interpret it that way the first time we're hearing about it, but could he be calling you lazy? Hey, there are people that need to know about the gospel. And do you know the people that take the gospel to people? They're working at it. And it's a beautiful job that they do. But there is some level now where you have to then, I think, look in a mirror and say, I know I'm not perfect. I know I got things wrong with me. Is laziness one of them? You know? What do you think? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just kind of want to just give y'all, I mean, I just know that was a really, I know we got kind of passionate and heavy.
Yeah.
In that segment, I just think that's, you know, the spirit's like, hey, I think that was a conversation between me and AJ. Y'all just got to listen to that. Like, we were just talking about where we come from and some of those things. But I just want to give y'all some encouragement on, okay, you realize, okay, maybe I have been being lazy. I have not been taking care of the things that I need to take care of. And I actually want to give you some encouragement, 3 ways on how you can get out of laziness.
Okay, right? 3 points.
The first one, you have to pray.
Huge.
Pray, for one, to the Lord to outline any areas of life you have been lazy.
Yeah.
Then identify the why you were lazy.
Yep.
And then the big part after that, don't just pray, oh, it's gonna be great. Pray and then let your actions follow suit.
Start the work.
Do the work. Once the work is identified, start tilling the soil so you can plant those seeds and all those things. And he's the only one that controls the growth.
It's good.
But you do what you need to do: till the soil, pull the rocks out, pull the roots, do all those different things. And the second part to that is to invite people in to do that with you. Because if you are lazy and all of a sudden you're gonna wake up like, oh, I'm not gonna be lazy tomorrow, then you would have been done it.
Yeah. If it would have worked, it would have worked by now.
Yeah, you would have been done it. And so get accountable to some people. It's like, hey, I have not been doing X. I have not been doing Y. I need help with Z.
Yep.
Get some people who are actually going to walk with you, do that, not just somebody to check in. I mean, if you just need somebody to check in, sure, by all means.
Sure.
But usually you need somebody else who's going to be, okay, like, if you're going to do this, we doing this.
Let's do it together.
Let's do it together.
Yeah.
And so have some weight to it. And the third thing is this is an episode I know we want to get to later down the road, but you have to start practicing discipline.
Have to.
If you don't practice discipline, then you will stay in the cycle of laziness. You might get out of it for a little bit, and something's gonna happen. You're right back in. You're gonna fall out. You're right back in. Right. So the verse that I wanna harp on for just the discipline piece is Hebrews 12 verses
7 through 13. Is that what it is?
Something like 7 through 13. And pulling up real quick. ESV, baby.
ESV.
All right. And so it says, it is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? If you are left without discipline, in which all have participated, then you are illegitimate children and not sons, which is, that's a heavy bar. That's a heavy bar.
That's a tough verse to leave you with, fam.
Besides this, we have had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they disciplined us for a short time as it seemed best to them. But he disciplines us for our good, that we may share his holiness. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant. But later, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to all those who have been trained by it. So, therefore, lift your drooping hands, strengthen your weak knees, and make straight the paths to your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. So I want y'all to be healed. Take that verse, like, don't just internalize it, but allow that verse to work on you and call these things out, so you may be healed, not just from just laziness or whatever the Lord is speaking to you in this episode, whatever it could be, whatever the Lord is say, hey, we need to work on this. Allow him to discipline you in that and bring those things up, and you till that soil and invite people into it. Because, man, I'm telling you, like, you can't do this by yourself.
Yeah.
If you could do it by yourself, you wouldn't need God if you do it by yourself.
That's right.
Straight up wouldn't need him. Yeah. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you do it by yourself. If we could do it by ourselves, we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Exactly right.
And so I'm just like, man, just take that last part.
No, that's really good. That's really good. I don't got anything else, man.
I have nothing else. And so
But you're on fire this episode.
Man, that's the spirit, bro.
That was good.
Okay.
He got something else. Hold up.
It's because this is where I'm living at right now.
That's right.
Like I've been desperately crawling, trying to get out of this place.
Yeah.
And the Lord's like, hey, I finally giving you the blueprint. Not only are you going to share with people, not as accountability with them, not as accountability with AJ, but now it's more accountability between me and you now. Yeah. You're not the only one that knows this.
That's it.
So now that you put this out, now it's time to do the work.
That's right.
Like I've given you grace. I've given you mercy.
Yep, that's good.
Now let's get to work, bro. Well, yes, sir.
Nah, you're on fire, bro.
Yes,
you're
sir.
on fire, and I love to see you get fired up.
Oh stuff, man, I'm just like, bro.
And you know what else we love? Mm-hmm. We love you guys.
Absolutely.
How about that segue? We love you guys. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I don't know if it's there yet, but like I said, this is Dear Laziness. We're gonna be in a series talking about a little bit of other things like that. Absolutely. If there's a topic you want us to hit, please let us know. Hit us with a comment on Spotify or text us if you got our number. Hit us up on Instagram. Yeah, our email's also in the description as well. Yeah, follow us at LB_pod on Instagram. And we are on YouTube. It's just the same format as this. So, you can listen on YouTube, be our guest. Yeah, and let us know if you like the video component. Yeah, we'll drop the video just because no editing. I'm just going to drop that bad boy because it might be bad. And it might be bad. It probably will be bad, but it's okay. It's our first one. That's right. You're not going to be good at everything you do the first time. Moving and grooving. But this has been Lessons and Blessings. Love y'all.